Our TV, they're breaking down the walls, empowering creators to answer the call. Web3 and AI, now they're leading the way, distributing and monetizing a brand new day. Putting power back in hands, creators and fans unite. With apps on every device, they bring delight. Oh yeah. Revolution of creativity, it's taking flight. Rad TV, the future is bright. Yeah, 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 yeah. Rad TV, changing the game, breaking the mold. Empower creators, stories unfold. Unfold, unfold. With Web3 and AI, they pave the way. Reimagining the future every single day. Oh yeah. Ooh.
I know you guys love that hit song from Suno, Rad TV. Rad TV's first top 40 jam. I could not believe how simple it is to create a song with AI right now. And I've been making music for 20 years, and it is absolutely mind blowing. There's really not another term to describe how incredible it is to be able to just type in a sentence and then bam, you got a song. It's crazy.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
Like
it is very cool.
I haven't. Obviously, I'm following a lot of AI music creators, but I haven't actually contemplated that Flamingo TV needs its own song yet. But
I mean,
now I got a project this week.
yeah. I mean, really, you guys should start the entire music video. You know, you guys have the FTV already, very similar to the MTV. You might as well just continue down the path and add in the music videos. I mean, they're coming, you know. All
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Let's kick it off. Thank you, both of you, very much, Jonas and Reza, for joining today. Talked to you both quite a bit over the past couple months, and you're both incredible leaders in the space right now, both in traditional content creation and curation, and moving into this new world of AI. And really stoked to talk to both of you today. You're coming in from kind of two different angles, and I think it'll be pretty free flowing and casual conversation. And we have, you know, a million things we could talk about. I could talk about this stuff all day, and I know you both can as well. So, and kick it off with a little intro for Reza. Reza Sixo Safai. Did I pronounce that correctly, my king?
You nailed it, dude.
Amen. All right. Reza is a filmmaker and an actor. He is most recently on your timeline as the guy who fixed the Apple iPad commercial. Went super viral, millions of views everywhere, tons of press. Very cool to see that. And that's when I talk to you, Reza. That's kind of like your thing. Is you kind of repackage content, and you're really good at that. At like seeing a better way forward for a piece of content. And then, you know, we just had our intro call a couple weeks ago, and then bam, here comes a super viral moment for you out of there. And it's really cool to see. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. He has worked on a ton of films. He's a producer, a writer. I think he's edited in the past. He's known for A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Prisoners of the Ghostland, The Persian Connection. He's also a father. He's been utilizing AI in his creation process recently, and he also worked on the T2 Remake, which is making a ton of noise and has made a ton of noise over the past several weeks, months. Really excited to talk to you, Reza, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no sweat, man. Thanks for coming on. We got Flamingo TV joining as well. King Jonas, who is heading up Flamingo TV and really doing an amazing job of curating and bringing artists together. They are bringing together upcoming and established AI artists, and also utilizing and exploring all new Web3 tools with NFTs for distribution, monetization, and sharing their projects in a much greater way than they are alone. They're doing a great job of curation, and if you haven't checked out their channel on Rad yet, go and check it out. They're featured right at the top. You can't miss them when you log in on the on-demand page, and they also have a YouTube channel, and they're posting videos on X. So follow both of these kings. They're doing incredible work, and very exciting to have you both here. So I'm just going to open it up. Like I said, very casual. There's no agenda here. There's really no sales pitch from any of us other than like we're here and giving the space time and energy and trying. I think we're all here trying to push artists and creators to the forefront and utilizing these new tools. So Reza, let's kick it off with your explosion of the Apple commercial this week. What has that been like? What was it, just an idea that popped into your head? And give us a little bit of update on that. It's such an exciting thing and very timely.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
yeah, man, that was really wild, I have to say. I've never had something go that big. In I guess on X, let's just say. I mean, I've had well, maybe. I mean, we've had like I've had like movie trailers with some stars, and stuff that that it kind of exploded. But that's kind of a different thing, I think. But what happened here was, as you mentioned, I'm a dad, and right before making the kids breakfast, I just got on my phone to see like what was going on, and I saw the Apple ad, and I was just like, my jaw dropped. I was like, what? How could this be so tone deaf? Like what's going on? Like I like I had like a visceral reaction to it,
Like
and it
everybody
wasn't.
did.
Yeah, well, that's how it turned out, which was really interesting. Which I think kind of goes back to this idea of whatever it is that you make, it's like you got to feel it yourself, not like what you think someone else might want to see or something. Because that's kind of what that was my like one of the takeaways. But I when I first got into AI, one of the luxuries or the ease and comfort of it was like because my union was on strike, and I like to create. But what I would do is I would just make this stuff on my phone, at night when the kids and my wife were asleep, and so like I could edit, I could do everything on there, and just do the shorts and put them out. And this was the same thing. Like right before making breakfast, I was looking at my phone and I saw this ad, and I'm like, dude, it would be so much better in reverse. Like it would just say everything they're trying to say. And then I thought like the song, I wanted to flip the script on the song because it was cool that they were using Sonny and Bono. I mean, Cher, Sonny Bono and Cher's track. And then I was like, but their song they picked was also really selfish in the video, because it was just like in their ad, it was all about I only have a loving relationship with the iPad, whereas like all this other stuff. So I was like, is there a song that would actually work in this that would be more inclusive? And I'm like, duh, of course. It's like the most like famous song. So I put that in really quickly, and then it didn't match up. But I didn't think that like anyone was going to miss the first bar, if I took that out. And then I played it, and it was like one of those magical moments where, as the record kind of stops in reverse, the key line of the song like hits it right at that moment too. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. But I just thought like just a couple people, my friends and stuff are going to like it. And then the phone, dude, like, I mean, I notifications like that, it just go crazy. And so I had to shut off all those things. And, I had people that are like, hey man, it's going to hit 100,000 views, I think. And then like, like 10 minutes later, it's like past that. I'm like, what is going on? But what was really cool about it? Well, because everyone hates on X that's not on X. Like I was having a conversation with someone last night. They were like, I'm not going to get on there. There's so much. What was really cool about this was all of the comments, which a lot of people took the time to comment, and I wanted to reply. It was like super loving. It was all about like creativity, but also just there was a lot of love, man, that came in my direction. And it actually made me think, because I was like, dude, like if you wake up and you just go through just those comments and read those, like you'll have a great day. So I'm thinking of like maybe compiling them all and putting them in a, like a quick edit and just putting it out there without, my name in it or anything. And in case anyone wants a boost, just like watch that video and everything that everybody's saying and just like have it be the person saying it to you.
That's
So that
incredible.
was really cool. And then there's been, work stuff that's been coming out of it, which has been very cool too. And then it's a conversation starter for sure. Like, like I was working on something this past weekend doing this really cool AI 48-hour thing, which I would love to talk about at some point if we get time. But, a person who's working out of there, who wasn't involved with it, who actually I think is part of running this incubator that goes on there. He like came down. He was like, "Hey, are you the guy that did the Apple ad?" I was like, "Well, first time you gave me, he's like, give me a high five." I was like, "What? What's this for?" And he's like, "Did you do the app?" And so like I've had a lot of just kind of people I haven't really had known before and stuff, like kind of that excitement. So that's always nice, man, when you connect with people through doing something that you kind of felt was cool to do.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that story. And, I want you to know I saw it totally organically, and I don't even think I saw it initially on your account. I saw it elsewhere, and I didn't know it was yours until probably 12 to 14 hours after you posted it. And then
Wow.
I was like, holy cow, this is Reza. And then I went to your page and saw you retweeting all the responses and all the great feedback you were getting. I was like, this is incredible. I thought this was just just some random person. And I was like, I just talked to him. This is like the most viral piece of content that I've seen in a year. This is, it's really reached far and wide. And I don't know what your total view count is across the board, but even other people have uploaded it. So it's everywhere. And it's awesome to hear that you're getting some prospects for work from it. And I'd be interested to know, have you heard anything from Apple? Did anybody reach out to you and want to use it? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but they pulled theirs down totally, right? Like they took it offline.
Yeah. And I don't know, if this is true, but some people have suggested, who know, because I guess it was their internal company, but some people are suggesting that, my video had something to do with that. I think it was more like, it's interesting, like what's going on in the culture at any moment in time. And this just kind of seemed to speak, to it, because I think there's larger questions at play, with everyone's, there's a lot of fear around technology and what it's going to do. And then Apple, I think, for so long was this beloved product in terms of being able to enhance our creativity. It was always associated with the creative.
Right.
And I remember back in the day, it would be like IBM versus, the PC versus Apple. And Apple was all the cool people wanted to make art and stuff would go Apple, and then business stuff and would go on the PC. But it's interesting, for that to have shifted. So I think there was just there was a lot of because here's the thing that I was really touched by, but there were comments where people were like, I'm crying watching this. And it kind of made me wonder, I'm like, what is that? What's and I think there's almost there's a real question at people's hearts of where are we headed?
I think in your reversal of the images, as you bring this up, I didn't really think about this until this moment, but it really it kind of touches on hope and humanity in a way that in the opposite way, it smashed that. It was almost smashing all of human creativity into this little thing. And it's
right.
That's everything. You literally just smashed everything we've ever made. and it's
right.
pretty sad.
And that we love.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in one way it's sad, but in the way that you presented it and the fact that it works so perfectly in reverse with the first couple bars of the song cut off is it's pretty remarkable. And especially, as I
It's like
saw
that
that,
line with the line where it goes, "I got you, babe."
yeah,
You know, like, I
uh-huh.
mean, that's just, it's like, it's so cool because, everybody, like, people goes, you got this, or I got you, and then, like,
Hmm.
it kind of like updates in a different way.
Very
But
cool. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you mentioned that you have been known for that, and that's kind of what you're doing in your traditional Hollywood careers. That you have kind of been
Hmm.
a go-to guy in your circle. That's, hey, we have this piece of content. What do you think of it? And you brought up like editing and recutting
Hmm.
content is kind of the vision that you come to the table with often, and then to deliver this in such a short period from my introduction talk with you, and
Hmm.
it be such a perfect representation of exactly what you said you're looking to do with content and what you're good at, was kind of just like wow, wow. It's just a wow moment. I
Thanks,
don't
man.
even have like other words to put on it other than wow, because it
Thanks,
fits
man.
so perfectly.
Yeah,
I was
go ahead.
Yeah.
no, I just wanted to interrupt and perhaps play a little devil's advocate,
Yeah, yeah, let's hear it. Let's go. Yeah.
if I may on this.
Please.
I first of all, I totally think the Apple ad was very tone deaf, for sure.
Yeah.
But and in some ways, I kind of see it as it like is the bookend to 1984, when Apple was clearly the rebels, fighting Big Brother, and now the ad really made it look like Big Brother. But what I'm wondering is there was a time when we were just you know the iPhone experience was magical, right? And I
Sure.
remember
Hmm.
seeing a commercial maybe in 2010 or 2012, somewhere around there, where it showed all of the analog devices that the iPhone took over.
Hmm.
Basically, like, I don't know if you guys remember it, but
I
it was
do.
like there was this big desktop and an iPhone sitting on it, and then all the items on the desktop started going into the phone as an app. There goes your telephone, and there goes your calendar, and there goes your typewriter, or whatever the case was. And that was, truly a magical experience for those of us who were around
It sure was.
before iPhones, and then had all those things on there. So I think with AI, what we're seeing is the constant growth of allowing novices to have a voice and to be able to play with this technology, creative technology, for whatever their purpose is. We can make wonderful things with AI now that we never could have done before if we had to know all the tools.
Hmm.
You can make a song now with Udio that you never could have done if you were, had to play all the instruments. So I guess, Reza, my question for you would be like,
Hmm.
what would your commercial be if you? I know you flipped the commercial, but if Apple came to you and said, "Okay, give me a commercial that lets me tell this story, but
Hmm.
in a more, artist positive way," what would you think
Hmm.
about there?
That's a great question. I think, uh, why I think it's almost like they missed it. I mean, is because they were so focused on the fact that it's thin. Like, that was the focus of the commercial, right? Whereas, honestly, I would, I would do what everybody was suggesting, in those comments, which was like, I would just run it as is. Like, that's the ad that I would have made. You know what I mean? Because I mean, obviously, I don't know. It's kind of hard to go back and just be like, okay, this is like completely fresh. This hasn't happened or whatever. But um, the reveal, because it's like there's something about, like in cinematic terms, right? When a camera moves and as it reveals what it reveals, it's like it's creating a conflict within you because you're it's a mystery of like what it is that you're going to want to see. And I feel like, as this thing just kind of, even if we didn't have the destruction to start with, like, and reacting to that, just the reveal of everything that can be done inside this iPad
Yes.
creatively
Yeah.
with all this other stuff would have been really impactful. And you could do it in, obviously, in a myriad of ways, but honestly, it would have been along the same lines. It's like, because at the end of the day, uh, even though you can do all these things on this, thin iPad, which, by the way, I've never, this was really funny because one of the comments was someone said, "Hey man, Apple should give you a lifetime supply of iPads." And I, and I replied, I was like, "Listen, I'll settle for one because, I've actually never had one."
Huh.
And then he goes, "That's why you're not broke." Or broken, I should say, is kind of what he said. But so I mean, I think, yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, I don't think like, there's a joy. We all know like creating things, whether if there is the simplicity of what you're describing with, like, let's say with Udio, but even to get like refined with any of this stuff, there's work that kind of goes into it. Maybe not necessarily with that kind of prompting, but certainly with putting together, let's say, an AI generated short where like there's got to be choices made, obviously, about all the selections, but then the way it's edited and the pacing and then the music that's used, and how you do the post production in terms of like with the colors that you want to adjust. So there's like a lot of work that goes into creating the timeline of the thing that is going to end up being telling a story that's powerful and impactful. And so I think both those things need to be celebrated within that. It's like, yeah, this is within it, but it still takes the choice of a human being that makes it what I think it's going to sing. And we were just actually talking about this. I did this amazing, I went to this amazing event called AI on the Lot, put together by AILA,
I
and there
saw
was a
that
lot of,
Nem and Sway were posting about it. I think I
yeah,
retweeted something from you too.
Nem
Yeah.
was there, and Todd, one of the organizers. It's an event for a lot of the Hollywood, companies, but also AI startups, but just to come together. And there's an amazing keynote given and just talk about and like kind of know where we can meet. And I think it's so much better than trying to talk to people on social media, and just how these tools can be used, and where things are going, what are the concerns and all that. And this idea of, it was interesting because people were asking questions. There was like filmmakers who'd never used it, um, and they really, I feel like when we had in-depth conversations, they walked away understanding that where their creativity is going to come into play, and it's integral, and this really is a tool that can help us tell our stories in different ways. But it's funny because I also heard there was another event I went to, which was really great. I don't know if you guys got to catch the Runway Film Festival. Did you guys get to catch it on either coast?
Our CEO Tony was out there for the LA, but nobody from our
Oh,
team was at the New York event.
I see. So there was like it was the one in LA was actually in this really, it was a classic, like 100-year-old beautiful theater downtown. Yeah, it's called the Orpheum, and it's really, I mean, really, really great work was showcased there. But they had these speakers right before, and one of the guys was this animator who started with The Simpsons, and then and I can't remember another big one that he's worked on, but he's taken on working in AI, and there's a lot of hate that he gets, but he understands. He gets a lot of puke emojis. He says, like, from fellow industry people. But one thing that was so interesting that he said was like, he goes, "Do you know how long it took to make a half-hour episode of The Simpsons at the beginning, when it was like all hand drawn and all that stuff and painted?" And he said, and no one really knew that. And he's like, "It took 9 months." And then he's like,
Holy
with the
cow.
advent,
Oh my
right,
gosh.
9 months. And then and then he said, "You know how long it takes, with when we got computer technology and using all these softwares and stuff to do, how long it takes to do a half-hour episode?" And no one said anything. Then he goes, 11 months. and, and it was like, I think as it was really interesting because obviously it speeds up different workflows, and you can maybe work on different aspects of like maybe punching up the jokes and doing other things to make them better. But what was really fascinating was just, I feel like as human beings, even though these things are going to speed us up, we're still going to find ways to fill up the time. you know
Yep,
and
yep.
so it's we're in a really interesting time, guys. I think especially of just being able to have these cool conversations with people. And I find
Same.
they work so much better in person.
Yeah, I think so too. Great question, Jonas. I really like that question, and as you're asking him that, I had just yesterday a buddy of mine texted me all excited. He went to a new studio in New York, and they had a mixing console that there's only 10 of them in the world that are still working the way they work, and he's like, they brought it out for me to record a horn section, and I couldn't believe I got to work on this piece of equipment. And he's an audio engineer, and he's very excited about being hands on that piece of equipment. And that's the thing that stands out to me. I know everybody has their one thing that probably stood out to them in the Apple commercial, but they show a mixing board for a second pop out of there. And I still use a small physical mixing board that I bought in 2004 that's called a Command 8, and it's pretty big. I mean, compared to the newer ones that I have, it's 3 times the size, and it does the exact same thing as the small ones would do. And I don't even need it technically. You can do everything in the box, but there is something that I really enjoy about having individual faders for all of my channels and individual pan knobs for everything. And the fact that you can just hook up an iPad and do it doesn't take away from what you're doing. You still can get, the same amazing results, but at the end of the day, there is something to like throwing those things away or them not being necessary anymore, or there is a feeling there that resonates with me that I really don't have words to put on it, but I think that's what the reversal of the imagery did. It was showcasing those beautiful things in a way that wasn't destructive. And I think that was you hit the nail on the head with the term of it. It felt destructive, crushing all the things, as opposed to exploding them out into, you can get all these things in one. And I'd love to hear your take, Jonas. Like, I'm sure you saw that content going around, and as Reza just said, it takes 11 months. You guys are churning out some pretty incredible pieces, and you're going for a curation model that's really, I think, the first of its kind in the AI space. I think Nem and Sway, from my perspective, were the first to bring so many AI creators together to work on one piece. But you guys are doing a pretty similar, same type of vein of bringing creators together to work on pieces of content that are cohesive and work together. And I'd really love to know, like, what your thoughts are on the Apple piece, and like where we're going. Do you think there's a better representation for jamming everything that we're doing into the box, or a more creative way to look at it as opposed to destruction? Is this greater creation? And how are you? What's the feedback you're getting in the conversations you're having around like artistic abilities and people really being able to be artistic and creative as opposed to one person doing the job of 10? Like, what's your energy on that? Because that's kind of like the general energy, negative energy towards AI at the moment. And I'd just love to hear your take.
Yeah, the AI tools that have emerged over the last year are obviously early tools, but they are extremely powerful for novices to get started in the space. And, there's tens of millions of people who have created art on Midjourney, and some of them have then gone deeper into AI video tools. And I have a list of about 100 different tools now that artists have told me that they're using in the space. So it's really an amazing Cambrian explosion of creativity and creative tools available. Now, from my perspective, the flip side of that is that there's just a lot of content out there now, a lot more, right? And the AI space seems to be like my impression of the content in the AI space is it's like a mile wide and an inch deep. There's just a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily need to find a broader audience. And so curation seems to be a really important element now, maybe more than ever, because there's so much stuff that could be considered. And so I would, number one, tip my hat to kind of the top curator in the AI art space right now, which is the team at Fellowship Trust. They are really have really embraced the notion of trying to find, develop, work with, and then support and showcase artists who are really pushing boundaries on AI technologies. Now, the Fellowship team has, for those who are not aware, they are focused on the NFT space. They are providing a platform for artists to sell their AI videos, which is called Daily, daily.xyz. And then they are also providing a platform for AI image artists to offer pieces, larger collections, and kind of what they term post photography space. So, for Flamingo Television, we've been really fortunate to be able to build on top of the curation work that Fellowship started. There are other platforms like Braindrops and, now some stuff is starting from Zora's perspective, and a few of the other NFT platforms are leaning into the AI art space as well. But for us, we have a great short list of artists to work with once that curation has already happened, and now we're able to assemble thematic episodes from that short list of artists. And so that's really been what we've been focusing on in the AI space so far. I think that it's somewhat orthogonal to the Apple piece. The Apple piece indicates, the Apple commercial indicates to me just the power of accelerating technologies, and we're seeing it, in spades with how many hundreds of millions of users have embraced early AI technologies.
Do you feel like the curation in the video space is new or in maybe more needed now than it was? And I'm asking Reza and Jonas here. It kind of seems like the past, when I'm just initially thinking about it, the cinematography, video, movie, television landscape has been highly, let's call it, I'm gonna air quote it. I know you can't see me, but I'm air quoting curated here, and it's almost like the curated at that level was like gate kept, and now it seems like the barrier to entry is much lower for people that don't have $1 million budgets for one episode of an animated series or whatever it is, or even getting a B-roll shot. I mean, like, a B-roll shot of the coast used to take a helicopter, and shutting down the highway to get that shot on PCH that you needed, and police and escort, everything that went into that. And now you just need a drone and like 10 minutes of clear highway space if you're doing it on your own. So, like, do you feel that there's it's a new era of curation, and almost like relatable to music? Like, are we in the DJ era of video, if you will?
You want to go first, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are definitely in a confusing space right now where every prompt could be famous for 15 seconds. There are so many, new pieces coming out. So, I think we're experimenting heavily with Instagram, with TikTok, with Farcaster, with Twitter, with YouTube, with Rad TV. All of these are areas where we're trying to put the best content out that we can find and see what resonates with audiences. I have no idea where this is going to go. Certainly, the studio model and the streaming models that exist are going to change somehow. Maybe Reza has a better opinion of how those are going to change going forward, since you've been in the system there. But I just think it's a very exciting time right now.
I definitely agree about the exciting time, because it does feel a little bit like the Wild West again. I mean, to me, it's, well, first of all, there's just been an explosion of creativity, right? And that is just exciting. I feel like whether, people are, as he was mentioning, like, are novices, but or people have done various types of art, and or filmmaking, and using new tools, and like you were saying, like, have access to, be able to do something that you just couldn't do because you couldn't afford it. That's all. I mean, just like right now, like basically whatever you can imagine. I mean, there's obviously, there's certain limitations which are going away little by little. Anything you can almost imagine. I mean, there's going to be like paralysis. Like I feel like curation actually has to start with the creator themselves. Like you have to learn how to curate your own stuff. Like how do you, because you can generate so much stuff, and different looks, and like at what point do you stop? And honestly, the best training I think that we have right now for within at least the AI space for your own self curation are these daily challenges, these daily contests. Like that's how I got started, because it's got a timeline, and you got to deliver it within that timeline, and there's no pressure. You know what I mean? It's like people just see it, or whatever, but you kind of exercise that muscle of making choices. Making choices quickly, and going with your instinct and what you trust. But overall, I do think there is. It's very important. I think curation is very important, but I think because there's so much stuff being made, and where do people go and look for it? And I do get concerned about gatekeeping, and I think it's inevitable, even though like this is a new thing. And from my experience, people in the AI community there's a kindness there, of wanting like to kind of
Absolutely.
help each other,
Yep.
share knowledge, and all that stuff is really great, but I mean, at some point, like, especially when things start to get monetized, and it's like there's only a certain number of people that can be selected to, let's say, create this one thing, so it's like there's going to be not room for everybody for everything, right? Which is just happens. And it's like, well, this group is doing great curation, but they're selecting only these people, and why didn't these other people get selected? I really like their work, I like it better, so there's going to be those things are going to come up naturally. But I'm actually very curious to see where like when the let's say like the the Netflix of AI, like when like who is going to be at the dominant position of that, and then will there
That's
be
rad.
like, yeah, well, it'll be Rad TV.
Sorry, shameless plug.
You know, and so and then where do we go from there? But what I like about us human beings is it's like I've had movies at Sundance, but I love Slam Dance, like, because Slam Dance started by filmmakers who didn't get their movies into Sundance, and they opened up another festival in the same city, and it slowly grew and became something significant, where like Chris Nolan had his first movie there. So
Right.
we're always create these things, but I think curation overall will be good, because then I guess it depends on who's doing the curating, but
Well, we're all
hopefully,
always doing our own curating,
yeah, we're doing our own, but also, but like I mean, if you have a platform, and I mean, what's cool about, like, I think what you guys are trying to do is like, like anyone can go and open up their own channel, right? And start. And that stuff is always great, but then, you wonder, like, who gets to like kind of advertise their things, and how does that go? Like, how do they get the people to come, how do they get the traffic? And, will the quality of the work itself, be enough, and
Right.
my experience in with movies and TV stuff, like, you'll make something, like I'll use my movie A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night as an example. Like that movie, you know, no one wanted to do that movie, right? Like the pitch was it's a black and white vampire western all in Farsi with no name actors. You know, and like you know, people are like, are you fucking crazy? Like, you know, who wants to make that? And but you know, but like we believed in that movie. And you know, my company at the time was one of the few companies that actually like put money into the movie. And also, like, you know, we were in front of the camera, behind the camera. We really believed in it. And you know, and I'll say this, like even when it got into Sundance, like people were still hesitant to kind of come on board to help sell it. And then it started to get, you know, good reviews. And then, you know, you had some of the big, I won't, you know, name names and stuff, but you had like really cool distributors and all this stuff. They were like, well, we really love the movie, but we don't know what we're going to do with it. And we didn't sell it right out of, like, it happened a little bit after Sundance. And then it slowly over time, you know, we found the right partners. They came together and they did a great job. And then it slowly over time, like found its audience, you know? And so I guess, you know, in this day of, you know, like if you're just going to throw something up on X, right? Like it's going to go down your timeline and everyone's going to lose sight of it, you know? And you need a place where something can live and also continue to grow, especially if it's really good, so that people can find it. Because some, you know, I've, like, and now that's my most beloved film. Like, you know, it plays all the time. It's won a lot of awards, but it took a lot of time, you know, and belief. So I like the long term aspect of this stuff.
I mean, there's even you know, Home Alone comes to mind. If anybody here's watched the Christmas movies, I forget what it's called. It's a Netflix special where they like show the making of and how many times it almost was canceled. And like several groups of people were like, no, we're not continuing with this. It's over. It's a wrap. Forget about it. And then it ends up being one of the biggest films of all time. And
Classic.
I'm sure, yeah, and people on here that are I'm mentioning it, but like everybody here has probably seen it or knows of it or watches it yearly, you know, at a minimum. And it feels like the gatekeeping curation has kind of, it's almost a thing of the past, and now we're into this new era where you can just post something and the good content does rise to the top, and you do see the hits and the viral pieces, like your Apple commercial. Like it went so crazy so fast. It's like, how could you have not seen it at this point? And it reached everyone, and like you said, it was like 10. Somebody's like, it's going to get 100,000 views, and then 10 minutes later, it was like over that already. And you're like, holy shit! Like, didn't see that coming, and that's
right.
because,
and I had 800 followers. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like the algorithm on some level. Who knows? You know, it's just like if it clicks, it'll work.
And I feel like the algorithms are getting better. And I know a lot of people complain about X, but my personal X feed is, I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not paid by X, is perfect. And when I say perfect, I mean like the For You feed for me is as good as I can imagine an app to be. That's not sexualized content like TikTok was the first few times I logged in, and I'm just like, it's not what I want. It's not, that didn't resonate with my lifestyle in the way that I wanted to open up that app and go back in and feel good about it. But X right now to me is pretty much 100% relevant news and information and things that I think are funny. And that to me feels like it's getting better. And it's interesting that we're talking about curation because Tony and I and everybody at Rad, we often talk about how hit-driven content is. And that's, you know, in the Web3 space, Jonas, you know, I know you've been here for a while and paying attention, but like we've watched several projects that have minted large collections of NFTs, raised funds, start to make their animated series, and then they need more funding. So they launch another token.
Yeah, they got one episode done with their $2 million
Right.
that
And
they
then,
made on the NFT.
and it's next, and we need more money. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, you're not going to be able to sell X millions of NFTs to continue funding your project. At some point, the project itself has to stand on its own legs, and the content has to be watchable. People have to want it, and then advertisers connect to it in a way that it is pushed. So like all content being hit driven is interesting, especially when there's 8 billion people and you could think to yourself, you know, there's got to be an audience for me out there. How do I find them? And I would be interested to know, like, what paths are you both taking? And like Flamingo TV, I feel like you guys are doing a very good job of you're posting some
Incredible.
things to YouTube. So, and we've talked about it like privately at Rad. Like you guys are doing a tremendous job of curating and of utilizing different platforms. So I'd wonder what your strategies are to reach people and to really get this content in front of people. And I would also add a second question: are you looking for a hit? Are you looking for something that's just resonating in the moment, that's like a cultural time capsule of like this piece is relevant today or for a couple days because it's what the capabilities of AI are today? Or are you looking for something that's like, okay, we can sink our teeth into this and we need to go far beyond where we're at right now? And I'd like to start with you, Jonas, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I think that the genesis of Flamingo Television came out of Flamingo DAO, which is a collector organization that has, a large collection of NFTs. Over time, we got into the AI space, a year and a half ago or so, and started collecting AI imagery work, and then moved into the AI video stuff, as we were talking about previously with what Fellowship is doing. And as a member of the DAO, I came to the conclusion that it's really cool that we're collecting all this stuff, but we need to find an audience who really cares about it. We need to get this imagery out into the world more effectively, and so that's what spawned Flamingo Television. Frankly, I launched it just this past February, so it's only been around for a few months now, and we don't necessarily know what channels are going to be the most effective for getting eyeballs on this content and getting lovers of AI art. So we're just experimenting with all of them. I would say that building the thematic episodes, which are, first of all, they're landscape oriented, so they work well with televisions. They work on Rad. On YouTube, for example, those thematic episodes are the most fun to put together. That's where the curatorial sense comes in most effectively. Coming up with some combination of 5 to 10 short form films that artists have created and putting them together around a theme and putting these fun little interstitial bumpers about Flamingo Television in between them that the artists have created for us. That's been the most fun part of the process. That's not necessarily the most consumed part of the process yet so far. In fact, I think we get more watches on Instagram and on TikTok now than we get of the thematic pieces. Although I think it's all trending up. And on Instagram, for example, we do much more of one-offs where we start featuring specific artists that we love and share their works, and so all that's in service of trying to share the AI art story as broadly as possible. We're really happy that I think probably since February, since we launched, we've probably had 1 million plus content watches. That's not a big number in the whole scheme of social media, but I think it is a good number in the scheme of
Absolutely.
how many people have engaged with a piece of AI video art across all these platforms.
Yeah, that's great. You guys are really building something, which actually leads me to, which I think, is the most important part about all of this, which I think is community. I think without community, it doesn't really mean anything, or you can't really even grow, have your audience. And, I got to watch that kind of firsthand, just, the early days of Pika. That's what I started with. And, have collabed with like an old moderator from there and have remained friends with a couple of the old moderators from there. But watching, just with like doing, people starting to kind of experiment stuff and talking to each other on Discord, and whether it was that, that directly led me to X, which then led me to the T2 remake. And like when you said the algorithm works perfectly, actually it really, I mean, at some level it does. Like the algorithm showed me, I didn't
It's
know
just giving you what you engage with. Like, if you're mad at the algorithm, you should be mad at yourself. It's really dumb. And like most people don't want to accept that responsibility, but stop looking at dumb shit if you don't want dumb things on your timeline.
I'm a little mad at myself right now, to be honest with you.
I love it. Yeah, but that's what led me. I mean, I didn't know Nem, like I saw he posted something about it, and then it came to me in the algorithm, and I was just like, oh, and then that led. But I think that building up of the community is just super important. I mean, of course, with your question you asked, do you want to have a hit? I mean, I don't necessarily think about it as a hit, as like as a storyteller. I'm really interested in sharing my story. I need an audience, and of course, I'm not going to lie. Like, I love it when, a lot of people, would see, or hear my story in
Sure.
some level. But I think I don't know. I don't think it's time well spent to pursue trying to make a hit, on any level or get it.
Right.
Now there are things involved with like, I'll tell you what, with the Apple thing, because you talk about the algorithm, like just as an example, just as that ad, a few things that I did do was, as soon as I posted it, I saw, some things came up about the Apple ad. It was like, I don't even know these accounts, like what it was, but they just had said like, I can't believe, this ad or whatever. And I just went in there. I said, don't worry, I fixed it. And then put the link in, and I just did that like a couple, 2 or 3 times. And I think that must've had something to do with it. So I do feel like if you are just strictly just, sharing on stuff that you're making on X, like, you kind of got to also do a little bit where it's not just about posting it, but like, sharing it with who you think might be into it, or would want to, but
got to toot your own horn a little bit. You can't just post
a little
it.
bit. Yeah. And,
yeah.
And I know it's hard because I know some people like really just like the creation of it, I just kind of got it, I remember when I first like was starting out, I almost like had a physical reaction against people that I could tell they were networking,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like I was like, oh, they want
just inauthentically looking for connection.
Yeah, exactly.
And even though it is authentic energy, but it's like,
right.
It's not happening organically or naturally in the flow of life.
Well said, and I think that's exactly, I found it was, actually it was when I went to the Cannes Film Festival, which is in France, like the first time. That's when I found my groove, because it was like a different culture, and they don't like do it that way. They'll take like a hour and a half lunch, and they just take their time. And I was like, oh, I can kind of like, I don't have to be bam, 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 with everything. Like, just let it organically develop. And but I mean, obviously, if on social media, it's kind of a different thing. But you can do that even with how you comment, or not take it.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, in terms of like building, I mean, your larger question was really about how are you going to get your work seen? Is that right? Like,
yeah, just like it is. It feels like the industry is hit driven, and like TV shows don't get renewed unless they're getting millions of views. And then like we even get to the argument of like Netflix doesn't share viewership, and if they did, how many things wouldn't go, or how many things would go, how many comedians would lose ticket sales or whatever it was. And there's a fine line here of like how much information you can share, and what people like. Even it's so weird that people are more likely to engage with something that has a ton of engagement. It's just like, if that
is weird.
It is the weirdest thing.
Need it. It's like the star, who gets all the free stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second.
It's just like gravity, and like you're adding every little like that you add is gravity, and then at some point it becomes a black hole of like everybody now is gravitating towards this piece of content. Now everybody's seeing it, and like that is the hit driven model that we've all. Like we're all subject to it. And I think Reza, you and I had a pretty long conversation about this of like the production budget of something, say it's $100 million. that's
Right.
only half the budget. The other half of the budget is
Right.
still $100 million, and that's just for marketing.
Right.
And like that. So, it's production's only half the battle in traditional Hollywood. And now it seems like that's kind of being switched a little bit. And like, maybe I'm just saying that. I don't even really believe what I just said, but I'm just like putting words on it. And I'm not sure where it goes of hit driven. And it's interesting. I don't know if you all saw or paid attention to the VO Google drop the other day.
Yeah. Yeah.
They put out a commercial with Donald Glover, and I've been a Donald Glover fan for a long time.
Yeah, he's great.
And I think so too. And just great energy and really focused on creativity. His whole team is very creative. His brother writes hit shows. Like his younger brother wrote Atlanta. He's written a bunch of movies and stuff, but he's like the main writer for the TV show Atlanta. So like a really creative family. And he said in that interview, AI allows creators to make mistakes faster. And in art, all you want to do is make mistakes, get the mistakes out of the way, make mistakes faster. And then he went on to say, everybody is going to be a director. Everybody should be a director. And then the last thing he said that really stuck out to me was that these tools, they still all boil down to somebody's capability to tell a story. And that's something I find, I talked to Corey, who just joined us. Thanks for joining, Corey. I invited him to speak. I brought this up when Corey and I spoke. That
Can I just add something to
go
the
ahead, please.
story
Yeah,
part?
interject. Yeah, anytime.
Because the thing that he said about the tail end of the story, which I loved, what he said was like, and we all need to tell our stories because then we'll understand each other better.
Yes,
or something to that effect, right?
Yep. So like the fact that we are all getting this opportunity to create now is great, but do we become our own content creators and our own curators, and we're just creating the stuff that we want to watch, and it really becomes I want Simpsons.
It's gonna become pretty interactive that way. I mean, it's certainly gonna be that way. Like where you're just gonna be like I think where you were going was like, yeah, I want this, Simpsons like to be,
I want the early '80s voices, or the late '80s voices, not the new voices, and I like that style better.
Choose your own adventure style,
Well, yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, I feel like what's happening now in the video space is what happened to music when we started to really discover electronic music and produce in the box. Like I remember going to early raves, and it was kind of coming out of like, it was basically like rock and roll, disco, pop, and like hip hop was kind of just being born, but it was like he had to sneak into a warehouse and go into the drum and bass room. And it was like this community based content that was being created that was like a new sound. And then the introduction of those tools allowed people to create faster. And now if you look at the number of genres of music in the last 25, 30 years, it's just exploded. And then you have these little micro communities that are forming around the content types. And so when I see things like with like what Flamingo is doing, I like does abstract AI art, and what Fellowship is doing, and like does that finds a community. It's already found a community, and like it can be big enough to sustain itself, but it doesn't ever have to be as big as Avengers, or comic book movies. And so it's like that ability for people to create more rapidly is going to create so many subgenres of content, and it's going to be more community driven instead of hit driven. Or I feel like that's a good thing. Ultimately, democratizes the whole setup.
Are we just throwing softballs with AI to new creators and seeing who is the best storyteller, and then these storytellers that rise to the top are going to be monetized the way the traditional industry has always monetized and gatekept, and that's how we're going to get on big screens? And I'm asking this to everyone. I know, Corey, I feel you. I know. Come on in. Jump in, Corey. Like, is this the future that we're headed to? And like, I mean, it's not like anybody can just get their movie into a theater. And I saw like even Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis is struggling to get theater reach. And I saw something pretty interesting. I'm sure all of you probably saw it already, but like they have a scene in the movie where a usher from the theater has to interact with the screen and deliver lines in the middle of the movie with the on-screen characters, and that is part of the production. And that's another, it's like breaking. Is that fourth wall, or is that like fifth wall? Like, I don't even know what that is at that point. It's like you're
That's
really like
5D cinema.
exactly, like you're really bringing it into the real world. And are these tools helping the best creators rise to the top, and then they get the proper funding to take their ideas to the next level? Or do these tools completely eliminate that old model and we are in an entirely new paradigm?
So I think it's a combination of a few different things. First of all, thanks so much for having me up. I really appreciate it.
Glad to
It's
have you,
great
King
to be
Corey.
here again. But Donald Glover's right on, right, with basically everything that he said. And this is a conversation, I can't remember which space that I mentioned it in, but we were talking about AI generated music. And the idea is that, everybody's got lyrics they wrote in high school a million years ago, whenever, and like turning those into actual songs is kind of amazing. And the parallel that I drew was the idea of when I was a kid, 150,000 years ago, we had cassette tapes. And so somebody would have a CD and you're like, yo, make me a tape of that real quick. And then you grab the tape of that and you listen to it 400 times until the tape wears thin. And then you would go and buy the CD of that band that you liked that you heard at your buddy's house. And what record companies didn't get at the time, and what a lot of people didn't get when they were fighting this stuff, was the person that asks their friend for a tape, a copy of that CD, they weren't going to buy your CD. They just weren't. They didn't know who you were. They were not going to do that.
shop.
But
Yeah.
they get a copy and they listen and they love it. And now maybe they do buy your album. Right.
Important that
And
Game
so-
of Thrones was the most pirated show of all time for all
Yes.
8 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the idea is that, number one, you can build new fans that way. And number two, with the AI music specifically, is it's not that like if you take these tools away from people, musicians who weren't getting work suddenly get more work. It's just that that music doesn't get made. Like there's less music in the world for people to enjoy.
I like that. Yeah.
And I think to the point with the content creation, I was actually having a conversation about this with a buddy of mine a little while ago. And it used to be that millions of people watched the work of hundreds or thousands of people, right? So millions of people around the world were watching the work of the people in Hollywood, right? And now millions of people are watching the work of millions of creators. So you've contracted the space in some ways, but you've expanded the offerings that people have available to them to watch and consume and enjoy, listen to, read, whatever it happens to be. And so the further along we go, especially with a lot of these technologies, is we're enabling the people who didn't have the staff, the money, the reach, the connections to make that happen, to break out in ways that weren't available to them before. And so as a result, we have whole new ways. You think about things like, it's almost to the point where it's become, we'll put traditional in air quotes, for things like YouTube and Twitter and all of that. But then you have the side way of producing, generating money through things like Patreons and Subscribe Stars and some of these other things. And so you have people who didn't have access to any of these any revenue streams at all before because they didn't have the connections, they didn't know the people, whatever the case may be. And now you've got Joe guitar player guy doing lessons through YouTube, and he's making $600 a month in Patreon supporters or whatever. And so now all of a sudden we have far more capability for people to tell their stories, write their music, make their movies, whatever it happens to be, that they never had before. And you have these other opportunities for them to get a little bit of either relief financially or potentially even to be able to completely support themselves through other people being willing to pay for what they're making.
I love this, and I love that you're such a big supporter of like B movies and stuff, and that's a great take for you to have, and pretty unique and spot on. Reza, Jonas, anything to add there?
I think that the crossover between the surging of creator content that's available, as Corey was just saying, and the NFT space and the crypto space is really underplayed right now, or under aware from a lot of the broader audience who is creator driven. With things like the degen token on the base network, which is a tipping token that people are liberally spraying around to people because they're publishing great content. There are, more and more creators who are able to pay a bit of their bills because of things like that. And I think that's only going to increase here over the next couple of years.
Yeah, go ahead, Reza.
Yeah, that's really cool. I just think about when everybody could make their movies on the iPhone, and and I think people like the artists are always going to find a way to make something, whether you have the means or not. Like I think limitations are always great for art, actually, and I'm an Iranian American, and a lot of the world's greatest, cinema in the last like 40 years has come from Iran, and they have like insane limitations of what they can say and not say, and how they can go about making it. And as a result, like they've been able to, tell these really incredible stories with those limitations. Sometimes I wish that you know, Michael Bay would be, forced to make a movie for, like $50,000, and let's see, and I think it'll like get him going. He'll probably make something
That's
really
an awesome
amazing.
idea. I love that.
But in terms of, I do think where we're gonna see more of, because as a filmmaker, who's made movies that have been successful, I'm sure that the movies were way more successful than the money I ended up seeing. And so what I think was going to be nice is that there's going to be we're able to see the money go directly from the audience to the artist, and the artist can go directly to the audience. I think we're going to see more and more of that, and in interesting ways, and I'm really excited about that, I have to say.
Yeah, that's what we do with this. If anybody listening new hasn't been here before, we actually record this. I'm recording this separately from X, and we upload it to Rad, and we collect addresses for Ethereum and Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, and we make this content available for very cheap, but the payouts go directly to the speakers here. So Reza and Jonas or Flamingo wallet, whatever you all would choose to pick to send us, you guys would get paid out immediately on those. And that's, we feel very proud and honored to be working at a time where we're able to deliver these tool sets to people that we feel are very meaningful. And something I bring up regularly is the moment that Louis C.K. dropped his special on the internet for $5. And it was 2007 or 2008, and it was massive shift in the creator economy of, I don't need HBO's one night stand to deliver my 30-minute stand-up special, and you have to wait on HBO to air it at 11 o'clock at night and then again at 2 a.m. or whatever it is. I'm just going to put it on my website. You can buy it for $5 and you can watch it 3 times. And after you watch it 3 times, you don't get to watch it anymore. And that's it. And I get the $5 directly. There's no middleman, and I'll pay out of my pocket for the production. So that's a tool that we're really excited about, is being able to enable somebody like Flamingo to come in and say, well, hey, we can sell this one piece of video content that has 9 artists and they all get paid out immediately. and no middleman, straight to your wallet, no accounting, and like Reza said, I'm sure my movies made more money. And like Reza told me a story, I'd love if you'd share it, of you were finding out like through friends of like, oh, I saw your movie. And like, I think you said it was like in Mexico or something. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, I don't know about this.
I won't say which movie because, like, because I think it's gonna maybe get me in trouble. But the yeah, no, what it was, I was down in Mexico at a film festival, and they were like, oh, we're just talking to someone, and they found out what one of my movies was. Like, no way, that movie's been playing in Mexico for a year, and I was like, what? No, I did not know that, and certainly the money does not reflect
my
that.
bank account does not know. it has not got the news. So like, and you had to like kind of, I don't know if you had to track
we
that.
can laugh about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right?
I'm really sorry. No, I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I'm laughing too, but but it's like we need to remedy this situation.
So do you both, any of the speakers here, do you see a future where the studios start to get cut out and maybe become, on Rad, we allow 100 wallets. You literally allocate a percentage to each payout. So you could have like the director's wallet gets this, the marketing team's wallet gets this, whatever, the whole marketing staff each gets 1% and they get 10% of the total payout across the marketing team or whatever it is. Do you see a future where this is the way things are done and creators completely bypass these major studios and they're no longer looking for $120 million? And like it's relevant to bring up again that Francis Ford Coppola, who has a wine that many of you have probably bought at, whatever grocery store you shop at, that it's sold everywhere. He sold his stake in his namesake winery to make Megalopolis. And like, that's a name we've all known. I mean, I'm almost 40. I know it. I've known it my whole life. I've known that name since I was young, and he's not able to get funded in the way that he wants to do the work he wants. So he has to sell his personal assets that he purchased through the work that he did previously, but he can't get funded. And like, people don't believe in his idea enough to fund it, where he has to sell his stake in his namesake winery to fund a new movie. And like, how great would it be if he buys that back? If he's like, okay, now I'll pay double, and my movie Megalopolis made so much money, I want my winery back and some, or whatever it is. But is this a future that you, Corey, Jonas, Reza, do you feel that this is where we are headed? Are we headed towards a no middleman industry or a limited middleman industry?
I think we're at a tipping point. I think two things are going to have to happen before we go there, and I think that one of them is, as we've seen with Hollywood right now, is they don't want to take risks on stuff because they're spending way too much money on all these projects. So anything that doesn't sound like it's a guaranteed return on investment, they're gun shy about funding it, which in a lot of ways is hilarious because Hollywood used to be the wild, wild west of storytelling. You think about some of the biggest names, some of the biggest franchises in movie history. Star Wars was a gamble. Everybody thought Indiana Jones was going to die at the box office, right? These things that we cherish now, they were huge risks. And they were things that people, I mean, George Lucas had such little faith in Star Wars, he didn't attend the premiere. And so, I think that's a lot. And to Reza's point, I think that's why I like low budget B movies so much, is because all the limitations really makes people be fantastically creative with how they tell their stories and what they need to do. One of my all-time favorite movies, if you've ever seen The Descent, the director did a movie before that called Dog Soldiers. And I think he had $200,000 to make it with, and it's one of my absolute all-time favorite movies. And so that's why I love to see with a lot of these tools is getting some capabilities into the hands of the people who had no opportunity to say anything before in a lot of these ways. But again, to the question, I think that we need to have places like Rad that are willing to support this new model. And we also need viewers, people who are looking to consume these things, the people who would show up at a movie theater on a Friday night, to take it seriously and to shift the way they consume this stuff to support it and make it financially viable.
I just want to say, first of all, can we all just say that Francis Ford Coppola is a G? I mean, dude, I would love to have that be like, at 80, hopefully it's not his last film, but this movie's been trying to make forever. And man, he just put it, I mean, mad respect. But I will say that, I think it will take to, at least in Hollywood, I think, for it to shift, because the way it works on some level is the big stars, right? Like, will take a big payday because, well, one, they know that they're worth it in terms of what the sales of the movie is, but also probably, on some level, unless the movie is a huge hit where you can't hide it. But with the Hollywood accounting, they're not going to see the back end, so they're going to take it up front and before. And and I think until for it to shift in that industry, like if a thing like United Artists, like where actually some of a good number of the stars get together and like, you know what, let's make this be more direct, and I think that would affect the change as currently is, earlier than as the trends take place, if we're really headed towards that, which I hope we are, because I know that at least most, I can speak like most filmmakers. I mean, us like producers and stuff, like we'll joke about, and like we just did earlier, about, that we don't know what's happening with the money there. And there's just not a lot of transparency, and so the more transparency, I think the better. And people talk about it and they want it, but I think now maybe the technology is there that it can be easily, implemented, which is
Do it on Rad right now. You can go release your movie, put it on every device in the world, and pay out your team instantly with crypto payments. And
I love that.
I do too. So I would love you hear your take, Jonas. I feel like you guys are already walking the walk here, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on. Is this where we are headed? Are we removing middlemen? Are we removing these big budget holders that are gatekeepers?
Yes. I think we overestimate the impact in the short term and underestimate it in the long term, as we do with most technology evolution. I could you imagine if Coppola had access to a small team who has the tools that you all have in the AI space, and he made Megapolis or whatever it's called for $1 million or $2 million, and he released it on Rad, or he released it on his website and charged $5 to watch it. He wouldn't have had to sold his winery, and he'll probably make just as much money doing something like that. So yeah, I think that's definitely in the cards for the future here. I also think there's going to be a lot more for you feeds related to all the content that you want to watch. For you, but tied to your sit back and watch on your TV kind of experience, or maybe it'll be on your Apple Vision Pro headset, or whatever the case may be. We're going to get much more customized on what people really want to watch, I think.
Floor is yours, Corey. Go ahead.
I just wanted to throw another name out there. We'd mentioned Louis C.K. with offering his stand-up special direct, and another name I just wanted to put out there was Trent Reznor. He had made a couple of albums available directly from his website, giving people stems, encouraging them to remix his music, that sort of stuff. And so I think that the early days and the rumblings for a lot of this stuff have been there for a while, and I think that blockchain tech and a lot of what we've been talking about with crypto and these other technologies is really what's going to be able to make it happen at a large scale.
With Flamingo, you just mentioned the kind of for you feed. I'd love your all's perspective on, are we going to enter an era? And I don't know, I really don't know if I want content that's just for me Cameron, and it's like, here's a piece of content that was made just for you, and it's really my entire life of algorithmic data punched into my new favorite Ninja Turtles movie that they're pushing to me, and it's like, you got to watch this Ninja Turtles movie, and they're generating it as it goes and trying to keep my attention. Is that where we're headed? Are we really headed to a place where I mean, I see it already happening with music and people saying, I literally saw, I'm probably 10 posts this week, I'm not exaggerating, that said, I'm spending more time listening to my AI generated music than I am traditional released music. And they're having fun with the creation, they're laughing, they're able to add in things that they want to, and they're having a good time listening to the music they are creating. Is this where we're headed for video?
Sam Altman had an interesting answer to a similar question here on a recent podcast that I heard yesterday, which was that he thought that one of the most important job opportunities in the future was the job of assembling humans together for really great live events, bringing people together for really premium experiences where you're bonding with each other on things. And he said that because he thinks that there is, the flip side of that is going to be a lot more AI coordinated, specialized content consumption, engagement, all of that kind of stuff. So I do think we are headed there, but I don't think it's necessarily bleak. I think we're going to have a cornucopia of choices available to us of how we want to consume things. And some days you're just going to want to put on your personal feed and bliss out to it. And other times you're going to plan to get together to some remarkable event that is way more compelling than anything that we have today, except maybe going to the Sphere. So, yeah.
I'd love to add to that, which is, I was saying earlier, I did this 48-hour film challenge as a part of AI on the Lot. And what was really interesting about it was, so it was all, there was guidelines, and we were given a script with it was just dialogue, and it was loose enough that you could really do anything you want with it. But and you could actually add dialogue to it, but you had to use that. And obviously you had the 48-hour time limit, and there was other rules around it, but it was supposed to be all AI generated at the end. And one thing that was really great about it was that we all had to be in person. And I noticed, and everyone said the same thing, that because I've done some of these before in the past, even collabed with people, but not in person, and there was just a different way of the energy and enthusiasm, and getting to know and connecting with the other people, and coming up with the story that we were going to tell, and then also just the way that we were sharing knowledge, about just how it workflows, and then vibing off of that, and it made everything so much better. I'm really, really, really proud. I mean, all three movies are really great, and I want to work more in that. I come from acting, and I'm still an actor, and I got to act the roles in ours, and just the live aspect was so much more fulfilling, even though, and it was great because what we were able to accomplish in 48 hours with the AI tools that we would not be able to do because, just budget and all the other things that we've discussed here today. But yeah, I mean, I agree about, getting together. And then what was nice also about the event was just, being around people, talking, and even I've done projects with the T2 Remake, whether it was on Discord and stuff, and people give feedback, or maybe even get on Zoom a little bit and do that. There's something about being with each other that you're not. It's not a time. There's not a time limit. There's not a. You don't have the same kind of time thing, and then the things that come up, the personal things that I think make the art really great, are just shared based on something that you weren't counting on happening in person. And So yeah, I can't say enough about that. I want to do more and more of that, frankly. Like with my AI projects, I want to do them in person as much as possible.
Thanks for sharing. Loop and Mix, I sent you a speaker request. Did you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I mean, it was more to the part with the music, AI music.
Yeah, sure.
Someone was asking if that's where we were heading. I've been, I grew up around music. I've been listening a lot of music, and the thing is, lately, I can't listen to today's music. It's very hard for me in terms of, because I'm very conscious of what I'm listening, and sometimes you hear the lyrics,
Absolutely,
and
yes.
it's really terrible. So I just can't. But what happened, and I don't know if you saw Nick Float tweet a few days ago. He was mentioning where, are you aware? Sometimes you create a music on Udio or Suno, and you end up listening to it like 50 times because it's just so catchy, so good. And I found myself into this kind of a loop. Basically, I just finished now a music video with the Joker, and I've been listening to this music like forever. Like he's a new favorite of mine, and I really feel like that's where we're heading. Like where we can create our own music, put the lyric that we want to put in. Yeah, I think that's gonna get, I think, bigger from there.
Yeah,
as the tool get better.
I agree. I wonder if we are headed towards a place where it's listening like here endless Drake songs. You turn on Drake radio and here's endless Drake songs, and I'm just saying Drake. I'm having crazy deja vu right now. Sorry, lost my track of thought for a second. So like you're listening to Drake radio. There's tons of new songs, and you are basically curating this new air quotes Drake catalog. And then you find your perfect song that resonates with you, and you think, well, I'm going to share these with my friends. And is that where we're headed, to where we are all curating totally new creations that are maybe familiar in a sense because they do resonate with an artist or a creation? And I've heard people say like, oh, I can just watch never-ending Avengers movies or whatever. Is that a real possibility? Do you guys think is that really what's coming in the next few years?
I think it's possible. Oh, sorry.
No. Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, I think that's possible as well. Yeah,
but I do think that there's, like you were saying at the beginning, when you started asking about this, like about, you don't necessarily want just what you create for yourself, and I think there's the surprise and the, not surprise isn't the right word. It's a little like it's the discovery. I think as part of the exciting part about AI, right? Like just even when you generate something, it's really like, it takes me back to the Polaroids, man. Like I'm like I couldn't wait. Like I still shoot Polaroids sometimes. It's like we can't wait for that image to come and see what it's going to be like. What does it look like? And I think as human beings, we're always going to have a need for discovery. Whatever the like kind of the new thing is, and so it's like that with, might be a story we've heard before, but maybe in the way it's being told, you don't necessarily want to know, just the way we like it to be told. That's why, like, like we were talking, whether it was about Star Wars or my movie A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night or whatever, like, these films that people didn't think were gonna work, right? And then they were a surprise for the audience. And so I think there's going to be room for that always, because I just think that's just human nature. It's like at some point you're going to get sick of Suno and just do Udio, and then whatever, is the next thing after that.
Well, I would love to hear a little bit more, Jonas. I'm going to ask you both. We're wrapping up here. We've got, I told you, an hour and a half to 2 hours. So if you both have a little more time, I'd love to ask you some more questions about your projects that you're both working on and see what avenues that takes us down. So I'm going to start with Jonas. Can you tell us a little bit more about Flamingo TV, what your immediate and long-term goals are, and how you're finding your curated artists, so that anybody listening to this may be able to reach out and be a part of what you're doing. And I want to preface this with incredible work so far. We've literally had 30-minute conversations with how great of a job you guys are doing and how needed your outlet is for the space, and somebody that is coming in not as a creator but a curator is really hitting the nail on the head and resonating throughout the community in a major way. And I think we're going to see more of it. And your branding, your community spaces, that's something else I keep hearing over and over in this space so far, is really the impact and foundation that is so important in community. And without that, there's not much. So I'd love to hear, you had this idea to start curating. Tell us a little bit more about that and what your plans and goals are for the next foreseeable future and maybe short term and long term.
Yeah, sure. I think I mentioned it earlier that we're still very much in learning mode here, and with the overarching goal to spread the gospel of AI art, AI video, and NFTs as broadly as possible. So the next kind of 6 months for us, I think, is to continue to professionalize what we're doing and grow an audience around that. We've been doing it as a labor of love so far. I expect that we will be adding some sponsorships into the mix over the summer, because we want to be able to fund more outreach and a broader footprint for people to be aware of this kind of thing. And that takes some money and some team effort. So that's what we're focused on. As far as where our artists come from, we are open to any submissions that people would like to provide. You can submit stuff through our website at ftv.xyz, or without that, we're just kind of on the hunt ourselves for great stuff. So anybody has an idea of an artist that they think we should curate, please just hit us up in here on Twitter. That's great as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we get to stand on the shoulders of the fellowship team, Braindrops, and other platforms that are already doing a great job of curation as well.
I a question about your content curation and your selection process. Right now, you are putting together, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, of 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 pieces, and putting them into a cohesive piece that has an aesthetic, if you will. And do you foresee curating longer form content as Flamingo progresses, or do you think the smaller and bringing artists into one piece is going to be your continued path forward? Any thoughts on there that you're willing to share at the moment? And if not, that's fine as well. Just asking.
Yeah, totally. Great question. I don't have a firm answer on that. Certainly, being able to promote artists who are creating longer form content is interesting. Some of the artists who have made a name for themselves creating shorter form videos, like Ethereal Girl and Lamoon, for example, they've teamed up to start creating more short films, if you will, but they have 5-minute films, they have 10-minute films now with a consistent storyline, and we would love to back what they're doing and help them promote that kind of artwork as well. And eventually, I'm sure this goes to episodic things that are 30 minutes long, or what wherever the industry decides to go. I'm not sure what role Flamingo plays in that going forward. We're not Hollywood native, if you will, so we'd need to partner up with folks who understand that side of the industry to be able to play there, I think.
Thanks for answering. And one last question. I'm interested to know what your take is on Web3 because you are coming from a perspective of knowledge of Web3 and jumping into the media curation and monetization distribution world. Do you feel that Web3 is removing friction at this point, or do you feel it's an added point of friction?
Well, it certainly is extremely difficult for someone who has no Web3 experience to get started. It's getting easier, and I think that Coinbase and the Base network work that they've been doing has a lot of opportunity to become a breakthrough for onboarding people into the crypto ecosystem in a simpler way, more like a bank account, more like a banking app, with what they're doing with the Coinbase wallet.
Yeah, we're really excited
So
about that as well. Yeah, I think it's going to be great.
yeah, I think that is inevitably. I think we're going to end up going in that direction. Just the power of community curation and micro funding is just a long-standing concept that I think can finally get there with the kind of the Coinbase style onboarding over the next year or two. So I think it's gonna play a really important role.
Thanks for answering that. Yeah, we agree. We're looking at Coinbase right now as have already solved the on and off ramp problem, and there's no reason that they're not going to solve the streaming money problem. And I think it's what resonates with everybody, and what got people interested in the space initially is, why can't I send you funds easily without paying crazy fees and them taking forever to get there? And it feels like, why can't I send you any token I want? Who gives a damn what you want to accept? And Coinbase provides the liquidity pools to be able to make that happen in the back end. And just say, like, if you want to send me ETH, send me ETH. If I don't want ETH, convert it to Bitcoin, whatever it is. I get to choose what I receive. You get to choose what you send. Convert it in the middle. Coinbase makes their small fee on facilitating that, and we can move forward with our chosen ideology currencies for whatever reason that we're choosing them. So thanks for sharing, and really appreciate you coming on today, Jonas. I can't say enough. I really think you guys have a wonderful idea, and you're doing a great job of executing on that idea. So keep up the great work, and thank you for your time today. Reza,
yeah,
what's
great.
Up with?
Thanks a lot, and also just thanks for hosting this space.
Oh, no
it's
problem. We're not done yet.
Pleasure
Don't
to hop
leave.
on anytime. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Reza. I'd love to know what you're working on currently, and I'd love to know your path of how did you get into AI? What got you excited in AI? Coming from the traditional Hollywood world, what piqued your interest? And I think you said it was Pika that got you. So no pun intended there. But what did you see, or what got you excited about AI for coming from the traditional perspective and saying, okay, this is for me. I've got to be involved.
Well, I mean, I've told this story before, which is like, it really was the algorithm. Oh, well, it was the strike actually, which is kind of interesting. I guess it was the writer's strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike. I'm in one of those unions, and so I had a lot of time on my hands, and I also, I love to create. Like I'm not happy unless I'm creating. It's like I got to spend time with my family and create. Like I do those two things, I'm good to go. And so, but also the algorithm, man. The algorithm. This time it was YouTube. The algorithm of the YouTube served me. Theoretically, media's. I didn't know who he was or anything about it, and it just like popped up. And I was like, what is this? Like AI, okay, video. And it was Pika. And he was talking about, and so I immediately, his enthusiasm for it, and also just like, what he was showing he could do. And I just was like, wow, man, I got to really investigate this myself. So that really started the journey, for me, which I'm so grateful for, because now I've, made friends. Oh, it's cool. I see, Nem here,
He showed up right on time, right when you started telling the story. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and Loop, Justin, and yeah, just a lot of people, through this, yourself, and so that was the journey. And then, I mean, in terms of, and then, I mean, it's addictive, man. I think one common trait I feel like I've seen amongst us is we're all like either ADD or ADHD, because at some point, like, we were juggling our own lives, like family, work, and then also making like AI art and movies on the side. It's like, man, only ADD people can do that. Hopefully it'll bring in some other kind of energy too. But I mean, I'm cool with it. But in terms of what I'm up to, I wish there's a really exciting thing I'm working on, but I don't mean to be a tease or whatever, but like, I honestly can't say anything about it right now. Like, I've just been, told, but I will be able to announce it, hopefully soon. But it's got me like, I just started, last night as soon as I got home, from AI on the lot, and just starting the process, and I'm learning again, and the curiosity and the energy is really there, and I can't wait to tell, because basically I just want to tell all my friends in the community and stuff, but that I'm super excited about, and then just have created more relationships, and I'll tell you, like I said, like with this 48-hour thing we did right after we left. I mean, it was, it was like 4 a.m. and everybody was tired and stuff. But like, as soon as I got a little sleep, next day I was just like, man, I wanted to do that again. So what I'm, and not necessarily meaning like the 48 hours, but I want to create with fellow creators and make movies. It's like, it's inspiring. I think, we can do so much. The tools have gotten so much better. We're all getting better at using them. And I was thrilled to be able to like use my performance in a meaningful way within it, where it wasn't like too AIE, let's say, both with humor and also like, as people said, it was kind of touching too, at one point, which was really cool to have a human connection. So I'm all about creating more opportunities and working on things to do that, with, with the friends I've made here, so with Nem and everybody else, like, just create more opportunities for us to keep going and keep growing the community. And I think we're on.
Did everybody lose Reza, or was it just me? Okay, good.
Okay, same.
Yeah, I lost him.
Rez, we lost you. If you can hear us, maybe leave and come back if necessary. No, there you are. I hear you now. Can you there?
Oh, I'm done. I don't know if, but
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
I don't know how much of that you heard, but
We just lost you right at the end.
Oh, I just was saying this is like a super exciting time, and I'm really like, I'm kind of honored to be like at the forefront of it. But I think I think we have a responsibility, one, to communicate about like the realities of what we're doing, and kind of dispel the fear, and share the knowledge of the tools, but also we already are, but like, be inclusive, and just keep growing this. And this thing is going to grow, whether we like it or not, but like, we can do it in a really, we have a, I think, a responsibility, but we have an opportunity, to set the tone of how it grows. And I want to be one of those voices, for it. So, but really appreciate you, man, for having me here today. It's been a really cool conversation.
I appreciate you very much for joining and your energy. Our first conversation, I felt like I was talking to a longtime friend, and I feel like that, and with a lot of people in the AI space. And Nem's here last week, so 2 weeks ago. Sway was in our space, and I said it to Sway while he was here, but Nem, I'll say it while you're here listening. I can't say enough about what an incredible job you guys did curating the 50 artists for your T2 project. Really, maybe the best group of people that I've ever come across in an art project. And literally everyone I've spoken to just has incredible energy, is willing to share their story, is willing to share their workflows, very open and productive conversations, just tremendous energy across the board, Nem. And you guys hit a grand slam. I still don't think anybody realizes how impactful the T2 moment was. And I think it's going to continue to resonate into the future. And we're going to look at that moment in time and this group of people as the tip of the sword that are in this space. And Jonah as well. I mean, you're really, you guys are killing it. We're blessed to be here at this time and building now. And I don't say that just because I'm working at Rad. I really am inspired every day to be in this space, and it has a lot to do with the community and the creators that I get to talk to every day. And speaking of that, Jonas, before we move on, I have another question that I want to talk about, the fear of AI, and that's how we'll wrap up today. But before we do that, Jonas, you're getting ready to release an NFT project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, where it's going to be available?
What project are we talking about?
You've been promoting the I don't know if I'll let you say it. I'm going to your page right now to pull it up. It has the word fucker in it.
Oh yeah, the chat fuckers. Yeah. So no, well,
Sorry.
that's
I was kind of hoping he was going to say, "Well, which fucker project are you talking about?"
that's right. No, so Chat Fuckers is an art project by an artist, Harvey Rainier, that is minted on the Bitcoin blockchain. I think it minted 2 days ago. So no, we're not affiliated with it other than being a big fan. So yeah, that was a really cool generative art project that we with Flamingo Television we took a little detour on that one, mainly to support the minting process and the artist and the project.
Cool.
We have just as a fun aside, we recently created a AI art critic that we have named Mona Mintz. She's the Mona Lisa in speaking form, using Hey Gen, and
I saw it's pretty good,
and using ChatGPT to help us with her scripts. And she likes to comment on upcoming art drops that are minting and give a criticism of them, and then maybe she'll nod that she wants to mint those or not. We'll
Incredible.
See. We haven't figured out exactly how she's going to integrate herself into the video space yet, but I'm sure we'll see her commenting on some video works in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I saw that, and I keep finding it every day that we're progressing more towards the world where a lot of the superstars of the future may not be real people. And it's already happening in Japan, and it's been happening. There's a name for it. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. If anybody does remember what it's called, there's like a specific term for these creators that don't really exist, but they are very prolific and have huge fan bases, and it feels like that's coming. So an AI art critic is right on time, it feels like.
There you go.
Yeah. So last question, and we'll wrap it up around 5:00. I want to ask you all, like, what are your fears around AI at the moment? And I know Reza said dispel the fears, and I love the term dispel because I feel like everything we're doing is casting spells here. And Loop said he doesn't like those lyrics hitting him, and I feel that's a very key point that a lot of people overlook of how powerful words are. People kind of take words and actions and think they're different, and I try to value them as this: a word is an action, and a word stays with you just as long as somebody hitting you. If a word hits you, it could be a fist hitting you. It's just the same thing. It might even be worse, So I would like to know any of your opinions, anybody that wants to jump in and answer this. Are you fearful of AI in the moment? And are you worried about the future? And we just saw somebody leaving OpenAI. I forget his name. I don't know how to say it. It looked like IILA.
Ilya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we fearful? Are we not worried? And I'll add in a little additional context. How far ahead are agencies like OpenAI or any of the United States military, China? How far ahead with AI are they? And is there, are you all are way deeper in it than I am. How much fear is really there? And Corey, you got your hand up. Go ahead, King.
So I think my big thing, I've mentioned this in a number of different spaces and to basically anyone who will listen, which is why I'm such a big proponent of open source. My biggest fear when it comes to a lot of this stuff is the idea of government overregulation and regulatory capture that puts all of the power in the hands of people who don't necessarily have our best interests in mind. And that's what I worry about a lot. I think that there's a lot of people who say the word safety, but when they say safety, what they mean is keeping the power and the control for myself and my friends. And the problem for a lot of us is untangling, because when some people say safety, they actually mean safety. But when other people say safety, they mean I want to pull the strings, right? I want to have control. I want these models and these capabilities for myself, and I don't want you to have them. And trying to separate who actually means safety and who means I want to retain the control of this technology is a very difficult thing to unwind. And I think that's where my biggest fear is right now, is the idea that uh, through government control, regulatory capture, all of those things that we've seen in multiple different levels, we're going to end up in a situation where not only do we not have access, but these tools are used, for a lack of a better phrase, against us by the people who want to tell us what to do.
Yeah, thanks, Corey, for that. Yeah, I agree with that. I think with the look, there are. I mean, I was saying, dispel the fears. There are things to be fearful of. I just don't think it should be a blanket fear of everything about it. Right? We need to be a little bit more discerning and really look at everything. So, I mean, I don't know about fear, but I mean, some concerns that I'll say that I have is like, currently just like bias and kind of discrimination in terms of the training data, right? And so that I think is going to be an interesting path to kind of change because it's just that's obviously really important. I want to be feel very secure. Like I think privacy is a real concern, just because of like how is AI going to be used in surveillance? Actually coming from Iran, and like what are countries like that, and how are they going to use it? How are they going to use data analysis? And what kind of privacy are they going to violate? And so how are just basically how is data going to get collected, processed, and potentially misused. And when I first saw that, like there was this thing going around with it was like this beam of like this laser beam like following someone's eye, and so I am concerned about like I guess what people are calling like autonomous weapons, and how those things are going to be used. Like those are, and then obviously misinformation and deep fakes, like with this election that's coming up, and so those are kind of the big ones. In terms of concern, at least that I have. I mean, there's probably the bigger thing is just I hope that we actually have real conversations about it versus just like this is fucking all bad or all good. It's like no, let's talk about nuance because how are we going to make ethical and moral decisions around these things. But I will say that in terms of creating art like as a tool, it is incredible, and I am really loving it, adding to the talent that I myself bring. So but like Corey was saying, concentration of power is a really important thing, and it's not just government. It's going to be like also a few large corporations. Are they going to run the show? So, but yeah, I think once we can get to like nuanced conversations about that stuff, I have a feeling that everybody is going to actually want the same thing on some level, like with human beings, for each other. But those are my thoughts.
Jonas, anything to add?
Well, how much time do we have? No, I'm kidding. Um, no, I definitely appreciate Corey's perspective, Reza's perspective on that as well. I agree with a lot of the things they said. For me, I I think that the decentralizing power of crypto can help solve a lot of the more relevant concerns on the AI front, from being able to provide provenance and proof of where something came from. Is it real? Was it made by somebody? Where did it get made? By also providing decentralized access to these tools, so that single companies, single countries can't become monopoly players. I think crypto can play a big role in that as well. So I'm extremely optimistic about the growth of these capabilities. I think it's just naturally an evolutionary state for humans, and I think that decentralization is coming in at the right time as well, to be able to fight against our worst centralizing tendencies as humans.
Thank you all. Loop, do you have anything to share? I'd like to ask you and Erica. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I fully resonate with all what has been said so far, but maybe it's me being a bit ignorant. I don't know. I'm always aware of some issue with like copyright and like image right, and stuff like that. But for me, I mean, I'm just excited. I'm just looking forward to keep creating, and the thing for me is that this is just, I mean, it's not just a lot of noise, but it's been quite, it's something that I kind of don't really focus on until I have to focus on it, if that makes sense. So if, for example, I'm called to do some work, then okay, I have to look at the legal aspect of things. But other than that, I'm just enjoying the ride and creating as long as we can, until someone say, okay, you can't create anymore. But for now, I'm just focused on the creation part, and yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think in terms of concerns, I think everything's been touched on already, that I resonate with what everybody said already. But yeah, no, I just wanted to, in the spirit of sort of community building and everything, I just wanted to jump up and introduce myself and say hi. It's been really cool to get to know what you're doing over there at Rad, and what you're doing, Reza. And Reza, I really resonated with so much of what you had to say today. And yeah, it's funny. You looked sorry, this is a little bit personal, but I kind of, you looked familiar, and it turns out we have some really close friends in common. So I just also wanted to say hi, and yeah. So, and I really think it's important, how you touched on community building, so being so important, and our opportunity here to grow this movement in a meaningful way. So that's just wanted to raise my hand, and say, like, I completely agree, and we're having worked in civil rights and various things where movement building was a big part of it and things like that. Just that I'm around and always want to know how I can support and help build stuff.
Thanks for joining today, and thanks for accepting the speaking role, and thanks for your great energy. It's crazy how small of a world it is, and it just keeps getting smaller. It's, we talk about community building, but like we kind of view that as these small niche communities, and that's fine, rightfully so. There are very small communities, but that small community has one person that's connected to another community and another person that's connected to another community. And right there, you find a connection of like, oh, we have friends in common and we were just on an X space together. And before you know it, you're probably going to be having coffee in LA, like that's it. Things happen so quickly here. And it's really an exciting time to be alive and building. And I'll say it again, I'm really grateful for my position here at Rad. It's an honor, and I am inspired every day to be able to wake up and talk to creators like everybody here right now. It's really what a special time to be here and everybody be able to create with these barriers to entry being removed, gatekeeping being removed, true ownership being on the table for anyone to take, and crypto allowing a lot of that, and these new tool sets tearing down boundaries that have been in place for hundreds of years, which are, finance or, gatekeeping or distribution or whatever it is. So thank you all very much again for your time today. I really enjoyed it. We've had 3 conversations on this season of NFTV, and I would do this every day. It's not always easy to plan and stuff, and I really appreciate Jonas and Reza doing this on short notice, and we do them pretty regularly on Fridays. So anybody that joined the day, you're always welcome back and jump in as a speaker anytime. I really value your all's opinions, and I feel every time I talk to you all, I feel like such a noob in the space, and I'm really around it every day, but I'm not utilizing the tools in the way you guys are, and I'm not thinking about them in the same way you are. I'm not coming with the same perspective. So these conversations really open up my perspective to include all of your points of view as I'm talking to other creators and what the future looks like at Rad. So you guys are really helping us, build the tools that we feel are going to be viable for this generation of creators. And Flamingo, thanks for all the great work you're doing, bringing creators to the forefront and putting them kind of ahead of yourself. You actually made a brand that's all about uplifting creators. So keep up that great work. And, we're happy to help wherever we can. If you guys think Rad can be of service, don't hesitate to reach out. And once again, thank you very much for your time today. We're right at 2 hours, so we're going to end it here. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining. Thanks for speaking. And most importantly, thank you all for your incredible energy. It's an honor to be a part of this community and play our role, and looking forward to seeing what you all make next. So keep up the great work, and thanks for being here. You guys follow Reza, follow Flamingo TV on here, and make sure you check out their work. They just go through their feed, like their posts. They're crushing it every day, posting stuff, and just tremendous energy. So jump in the community like Erica did. You probably know them already, so at least know people that know them. And that's it. Thanks for being here. Have a great weekend. Talk soon.
Rad TV, the future is bright.